evening, everyone. I'm Neeli Lakhani. I'm one of the coordinators here at the Indo-American Arts Council, and I'd like to welcome you to this evening's literary event, Lucky, the Anil Nayar story. The Indo-American Arts Council is based out of New York City, and we have been passionately building awareness and promoting the arts in film, dance, music, and literature, and supporting artists whose heritage lies in the Indian subcontinent. 2020 marks our 20th year, not only serving art aficionados in New York, but all around the world. Our mission has always been to provide a platform for themes and talent from India, of India, and about India. This evening marks our first literary event in 2020 to go virtual. Tonight, the IAAC presents the book launch of Lucky, Anil Nayar's story, written by his wife, Jean Nayar. Lucky is the inspiring story of the sports career of Anil Nayar, a trailblazing Indian athlete who is widely considered India's greatest squash player. This book was first published in India by Such Sports and in the US by its affiliate imprint, Five Rivers Press. The book has been hailed by Khalid Ansari, founder and former publisher of the Indian Daily Midday, as a cerebral yet sensitive tour de France on the pioneering life of a principled sports champion. Tad Friend, writer for The New Yorker, best described it as a celebration of humankind at its best. We are fortunate today to have with us Anil Nayar, the subject of the book, and Jean Nayar, his wife and the book's author. Tonight's discussion will be moderated by Ms. Aroon Shivdasani and Mr. Geoff Mitchell. I'd just like to say a few words about them both. Geoff Mitchell runs Mitchell Squash and is the head squash professional at the Chatham Club in New Jersey. He was ranked #1 in the US in the over 45 age group in 2011. As former squash professional with national and world rankings, he has developed hundreds of juniors to play intercollegiate squash and has also led the successful juniors to win US national titles and rankings. He was awarded the United States Olympic Committee National Coach of the Year Award in 2016. Mitchell, we welcome you to our panel today.
Thank you.
Our next moderator really needs no introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce you, Aroon. Laughter and joie de vivre are her signature style. As one of the original co-founders of the Indo-American Arts Council, she passionately served the organization for 18 years as the executive and artistic director of the IAAC. Through the IAAC, Aroon pioneered a passionate movement to showcase, promote, give visibility, and build an awareness to the Indian subcontinent in the performing, visual, literary, and folk arts. She's received countless honors for her achievements and contribution to community empowerment and for pioneering the Indian arts movement in North America. In fact, the Economic Times recognized her as one of the top 20 global Indian women of 2015. I have personally had the privilege of working with Aroon during the formative years of the IAAC, and every single time I'm left in awe of her energy, her selfless dedication and perseverance that she has shown on behalf of the Indian community. Aroon, IAAC wants to thank you for the introduction to Anil and Jean Nayar this evening and agreeing to moderate this book event. So from that, I pass the torch on to you to continue this evening's event. Thank you, Aroon.
Thank you, Neeli. I had just finished my O-levels at a school up north, the Lawrence School, Sudan, came down to Cathedral in Bombay to do my A-levels in 1962. That's where I met Lucky. I didn't know his name was Anil till years later. But Lucky I met through mutual friends in Cathedral, and he was already making waves in the squash world in India. My friendship with Lucky was purely social. However, my husband still recalls that he saw Lucky win the junior and senior national championships in India with a broken arm in the same week. That's really saying something. Little did I know that this laid-back kid with a slow, winning smile would quickly capture the international squash worlds by winning the Drysdale Cup in London, then the de facto World Championship event. and later 28 national championship titles in 5 countries. The US Men's National Championship 2 years in a row, twice in Canada, 8 times in India, once in Mexico, once in Bermuda, and 15 Masters titles in places all over the world. He was also given the Arjuna Award in India, the highest award presented by the Indian government to recognize an outstanding sportsman, served as the first Indian captain of the Harvard squash team, was honored by the Cricket Club of India, who named their squash courts after him, and finally was inducted into the US Hall of Fame. In addition to all these awesome accolades, and I know I've skipped a few or muddled them up, but Lucky has won so many accolades and awards that, you know, you could write pages and pages about them. He won praise from friends, coaches, players, journalists for his ethics, his sportsmanship, his generosity, and his philanthropy. I can personally attest to all these attributes as a friend, but I won't elaborate on any of them now because there's much to be discussed in the upcoming chat with Lucky, Jean, and Geoff. I met Jean through Lucky late one evening at a bar in Manhattan. We discovered we were kindred spirits right away. Jean is a seasoned author and journalist. She writes predominantly about architecture and design, contributes to a wide array of lifestyle magazines such as Milieu, Interior Design, Cottages and Gardens, and has authored several books, including Green Living by Design, as well as Living in Style in New York. Her debut biography is Lucky, chronicling her husband's sports career. I personally thoroughly enjoyed reading this book. It's a very easy read and a fascinating account of Lucky's life and sports career, as well as the environments that surrounded him, both in India and the United States. The book lays bare his relationships, his ethics, his sportsmanship, as well as his personal life and career. And I must say, Jean's done an amazing job of that, considering how close she is to him. And one always wonders, how much can you tell? Read it. Feel free to ask questions at the end of this chat. Jean, will you introduce us to the first set of slides?
Thank you, Aroon, and thank you for being here along with Geoff. And thanks to the IAAC for hosting this event, and thank you to all the people who are here. We were asked to supply some photography from the book to illustrate some of the ideas that we'd be talking about in this conversation. And so Anil and I collected a few of them and presented them in mini slideshows that'll touch on certain themes. And the first set of slides will focus on Anil's unlikely start in the trajectory of being a sportsman. And it begins in Punjab before partition, before he was born, and goes to Bombay, where his family moved after partition, and culminates with his win at the Drysdale Cup. So maybe we should go ahead and play those first set of slides. And gosh. Anyway, maybe we'll just go through without the music. Yeah. But that's Anil as a baby, pre-partition, just after India became free. And they moved to Bombay. My father actually took this photograph in 1945 while he was stationed in India during World War II. There's Anil when he was a little chubby boy, and that because he was chubby, that was part of his impetus to get started in squash. I think he's covered up in this image with his family, but he was pretty pudgy in that one. But you can see he's got an attractive family. They landed right next to the CCI, which is where Anil was first drawn to squash, and he started learning in earnest with Yusuf Khan, who's his coach there to the left. And with his help, he became the first Indian to win the World Junior Champion event, the Drysdale Cup, And so that was an important turning point in his career.
So Anil, the cup in that picture, is it one of these in the book? Or are
No,
these two other important events?
that's the U.S. Nationals and the National.
Okay, so we'll get to that later, but
Yeah.
I just want to ask a question about the Drysdale Cup, because this tournament, some of you may not know, it's probably the most prestigious event, certainly back then. It was the World Juniors. So that meant when Anil won it, he was the best world junior in the under-19s. It's since become the British Open under-19s, which is still probably one of the two most prestigious events in the world for junior squash. So to take note of winning such an event, it's also important to understand that I believe, Anil, that was your first event outside of India to encounter foreign players and just for yourself to be outside of India to play this event. So I'd like to hear a little bit from you about that experience and how pivotal it was in your early squash amateur career.
Sure. Before we got to London, there were like three thoughts that we had in our head. This is my playmate and me, Tully Madden and myself. First, and the most important was that will we be treated right? We were anxious. I mean, it was like post-colonial India, and we always heard about stuff, discrimination happening in England and London, and we were really worried. Will we be treated right? The second was that, well, we're going there, but we don't know how they play. We know how we play, but we don't really know, what the standard is. But we did know one thing, that we were good by Indian standards, we were fit, and we practiced hard. How much better we thought could they be? So that was the mindset we went when you got on the plane for London.
You'd never seen him play.
I'd never seen them play. And so it was one of those things that was, and then again, we had this, will we be treated right? Every time we got on, walked around London, we felt somebody's throwing a slide at us. It's like, and we couldn't figure out whether he's throwing a slide at us, whether he's just angry at us, or did we do the wrong thing? We don't really know, but whatever. We go to the courts at the RAC and we say, we come from Bombay, we'd like to play, we come all the way here, we'd like to practice for the tournament. And the stern, stone-faced guy says, nobody practices here, you guys go and practice here. I said, funny, I said, that's it, that's exactly it. That's what we were expecting, and that's what we got. These guys are, not allowing us to do what we should do. They're discriminating against us. But we went somewhere else to practice through Sharif Khan, and started to play the matches. Very tentative at first, but every match I played, I got a little more confident. I was getting more speed. I was getting my strokes right. I was feeling I can hit the drop shot without being tentative about it, or hit the both without being tentative about it. And so it went on until the semi-finals. I was winning reasonably easily. And in the semi-finals, I had no problem. I was 2-love up. It was 2-all at one stage, 2-1 up. And my opponent kept coming in the way. So I told him, I said, listen, please don't come in the way, because I got hit my ball, and I said, I'm going to have to hit you. So I hit him once. I hit him hard the second time. And I think the message got across. And the fifth game was relatively easy. And then in the finals, I won fairly easily. I got a lot of confidence by then. And one thing I learned, Jeff, in this was you can be nice and sweet on the court, but you can't give the match away because of somebody being unfair. And so you had to kind of figure out, I've got to hit him. He's not getting out of the way, and the ref is not looking at it properly. So I got very confident, and I had to revert to this situation, which I'd never done before.
That was a
Oh dear, what happened here?
Yeah.
Jean, you have been married to Lucky near on 16 years.
No,
Wow.
it's,
How many years is that?
19. It's 19 years.
19, okay. Why now? You've been married to him for so long and you decided to write the book about him now. Did it clarify your thoughts about Lucky the man, Lucky your husband, Lucky the sportsman? Or did you write to pay tribute to a great sportsman who happened to be your husband? Talk to us about why you wrote the book.
Okay, well, let's see. I actually had the idea to write the book almost 19 years ago, shortly after we got married. One of Anil's childhood friends was talking to me about Anil, and he told me that he thought he was a hero, and he told me that a lot of Indians do see Anil as a hero, and he also said that India was sorely in need of heroes. And so when he said that, it sort of occurred to me that somebody should write a book about Anil's legacy. And I didn't know that it was going to be me who was writing the book, but there was another friend of ours, Khalid Ansari, who's a very well-known publisher of, he published Sports Week, a leading sports magazine in India, as well as Midday, a top newspaper. And he also agreed that a book on Anil should be written, and he worked hard with me to try to make it happen. I wanted to work with maybe an Indian writer to do it, and over time, I just got distracted with my work and my, other projects, but I hadn't really forgotten about the book, and the time just presented itself 16 years later when I'm freelancing now. I don't have a corporate job anymore, and I just said to myself, now's the time. And the timing was right. I think fate has a way of working itself out and making things right. So my objective was to really make a record of Anil's legacy, but because I'm not a sports writer, I wanted to write a human story, because Anil's story is more than just his sports accomplishments. And I guess one of the things that I learned, and I always did have this question about Anil, is I wanted to understand the mindset of a champion. And when I first met Anil, I didn't see that killer instinct in him. And I just thought, well, what is it that you have if you don't have the killer instinct that allows you to get to the very top of the game? And so after speaking to a lot of his fellow players and doing a lot of research and digging into, whatever I could find, I discovered that it was really more a matter of artistry and creativity on Anil's part. That's the quality that he had that set him apart. And it's instructive for sports people that, there are different ways to be the best. And this just happened to be Anil's, particular, set of qualities that allowed him to get ahead. I think aside from all of his trophies, though, and all of his accomplishments, to me, the important thing that Anil's story has, offers for other people is the fact that he was a trailblazer. I mean, he was the first Indian to do so many things, to win the Drysdale Cup, to go to Harvard, because of his squash skills, and to play as a captain on the Harvard team and win the US Nationals and many other things. And so I think that his big contribution is as a pioneer and a trailblazer that set a template for other people to follow. And I think it opened up a two-way street between America and India that has made each country richer for it.
Thank you. Lucky, like many families from Sindh, Punjab, and Bengal, your family were victims of the partition of India too. Fortunately, your parents had an ability to bring over enough wealth to sustain your family, to set up a home, to start a business in India. Post-colonial India also had many marks, if you will, of British India, clubs being one of them. And many of our families belonged to one or more of the half-dozen clubs there were there. And our social lives revolved around the clubs and private parties. Talk to us about your early life in Bombay, your childhood, your family, your siblings, and weave into that your thoughts on post-independence India as it applies to you.
I don't know where to start, but let me try. So let me start actually with us in Bombay, going to cathedral. There were a lot of kind of contrary cultural currents. The British had left India, but they left behind they left behind at least a psychological hangover. And this kept getting strengthened by the fact that when you are sorry?
I don't know what's happening.
I think Betsy needs to mute.
Okay, I think she muted.
Yeah.
I think she muted.
So we have these parallel themes, contrarian themes, right? Actually, that the British had left India, but headmasters were British, management was British in the clubs. There were a couple of clubs where Indians weren't allowed to go to. So we still had this kind of superior kind of situation where they were up there, they were managing, and we were still like participating. Our school was managed by mainly British folks, but yet, we at the school, we had Hindus, Muslims, Catholics, Jews, whatever religion you could think of. We had them all there, and we all had so much fun together. And then you go home, and then at home there's my mother reading the Guru Granth Sahib or reading the Mahabharata or the Ramayana. So there's all this mishmash of where do you spend more time? What is more important? And in this time of kind of like trying to navigate your way through all these different cultures and impressions, I think I became a lot better to navigate these kind of different kind of cultures and pressures. And I believe that this really helped me a lot in navigating myself when I went to Harvard. I did get the London experience, which to some extent was okay and not was mediocre as far as social experience. But all this exposure to multicultural situations and the English really helped me navigate myself when I went to Harvard. So it was, in a sense, it was a big plus to have the British there while we were still there and deal with them and work things out. So it was very helpful.
Well, this is an easy one for you. Why were you called lucky? One thing.
One thing, I've been trying to think about this. So I'll tell you one thing. So for kids, for parents, and for their kids, and for their grandkids, and ones yet to come, this is one way of not applying to get into Harvard, okay? This is one way of how you don't apply to get to Harvard.
With the nickname?
No. So this is why it was lucky, right? Yusuf Khan writes in Pashto to Mohibullah Khan at the Harvard Club in Boston. Yeah, I have a friend, I have a pupil, he's a good squash player. Do you know anybody at Harvard who can help him? 1 month later, a Pashto reply comes back. He says, let me check and let me see who I can contact. Like another 3 weeks later, Mohibullah writes to Yusuf in Pashto. This is all by mail, by the way. Tell your fellow to send an application in English. Write something in English. So I write in English. 3 months later, Mohibullah takes it to a Harvard Club member in Boston, who takes it to an admissions committee member in Boston at Harvard. And I get a note then by mail another 15 days later saying that, okay, you please take your SATs and you please fill out this form. I said, okay, do that. And about a month later, a month and a half later, I get a telegram from the admissions committee saying that I'm admitted to Harvard. So it was kind of lucky. There were a lot of things, moving parts here. Mahibullah could have said, yeah, I receive this kind of letter every day. Let me just throw in the garbage. May not have gotten there. Or the guy that Mahibullah gave the letter to in English may not have contacted the right person there. This person was a very kind of cool guy. So it was that, all these things coming together was really lucky. And eventually, and I'm going to give this
Called lucky up front. When I met you way before, you were already called Lucky.
Well, that's
Well, it was an
some other
appropriate
reason.
name for him, but his mother is the one who actually gave him the name when
There you go.
he was born. And it was after a very challenging childbirth.
So this
And
is
the doctor
how I
said
say
he was lucky to be born.
this is how not to get into Harvard, because it's not going to happen. And Jeff knows this. So I was very lucky to get. I mean, I have other kind of incidents too, but I think one incident is good for right now. The others can be in the book. People can read.
So now you attribute being called lucky to that particular event?
Partly that event. Luck has like, at the end of the day, when luck is both how much modicum of luck you have, and how much, and how you can, deal with the luck. You have to work hard to get lucky. Yeah, so that's one of the major incidents. I think there are other ones too, but that's there.
But Yusuf was a very helpful person to Anil in many ways.
Yeah, you were clearly lucky to have Yusuf at the time when you first started playing. Can you talk about when you first started playing, how you ended up in the court, what motivated you? Because I know you had an older brother who played.
Yeah.
And so kindly Aroon talked about your body image.
Yeah, self-image, body image. I was a roly-poly, and I had to. I mean, people kept teasing me, and I had to go to, and they said, well, why don't you go play? Mother said, why don't you go play squash? It's right next door. I don't know, we're getting somebody's.
Yeah, that's somebody's head. But I think Rakesh has to mute him.
Yeah.
First.
So anyway, I went there when I started playing, and these guys, the professional, there was Jamal, and he saw me play. He said, well, this guy's not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to spend any time with him. After he goes to England, Yusuf comes back and comes to CCI, and he takes over, and he said, okay, we can play. And he made me run and run and run, and gradually, picking up balls that I would never have picked up when I first started. Lost a little weight, lost a little flap, got some stronger quads, more balance. And then Yusuf really did spend a lot of time.
He had some pretty impactful words of praise for you early on that I think meant a lot to you. I got through the book from Jean. You run like Hashim.
Yeah. So that, see, when somebody tells you that in our world, I never seen Hashim play, but we heard about it. That's the most supreme compliment you can give anybody in squash at that time. And when he said that, that boosted my confidence like way up there. So it was the most magnificent compliment I've ever given, actually.
And this was a time after the Drysdale Cup, obviously later, but what ended up putting Harvard on your radar to begin with? I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but can you tell us a little bit about getting to Harvard? Or is there anything you want to add to that?
I think it was my family, my siblings went to England, and they kind of left me in Bombay. And I applied to Cambridge, and Cambridge said, well, you apply back in a year, Cambridge, England. And I said, Yusuf, we got to do something about this. We got to figure out what. Then he got the idea of writing to Mahibullah Khan. So.
But maybe this is a good time to cue the next set of video images.
Sure.
So that we can move on to the Harvard years.
So this is 1965 when you arrived, when there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
That's Yusuf on my right, and my buddies.
All his buddies with him at the airport, getting ready to go to Harvard in '65, and when he got there, of course, it was a civil rights movement going on.
We stayed. Tom and I stayed a block away from this is Dudley Street Station in Roxbury, and we spent a year just away from that.
And of course, the women's movement was happening, and the anti-Vietnam War movement. So it was a pretty tumultuous time for Anil to come and witness the American scene. And he also started traveling with the Indian team around the world and played in the first world team championships in Australia and went to Canada and became the national champion there. His senior year, he was the first Indian captain of the Harvard team. So he had some pretty amazing times in college. And we thought that talking about some of the issues and the sort of cross-cultural currents that he was navigating would be a nice thing to cover here.
Of late, racism has taken center stage in the US and pretty much around the world. Lucky, talk about your impressions of racism and discrimination, both at Harvard, in the US in general, in Canada, obvious and subtle through your lens.
Well, you know, it almost seems anticlimactic when I don't have a story to tell. It seems people are looking for a story. I don't really have. I mean, I'll tell you a couple of stories that I do remember. Well, the RAC story in England, you know that what happened.
But you didn't really finish that, Anil, which might be
yes,
a good sign.
exactly. You didn't tell people what
There's
really
a lot
happened.
more to that story.
So should I just say it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we had this issue with the RAC guy. They didn't allow us to practice. 50 years later, Jean is writing a book, and I call a guy who was in the tournament, a fellow called Chris Orris, and I asked him, a British guy on the tournament. And we were having a chat about the RAC, and I said, Chris, I never got to practice on the courts. What gives? We should be able to practice. I said, these guys, were they, what were they thinking we were about? So he said, listen, I know where you're going with this. RAC at that time discriminated against everybody. If you were not a member, you weren't supposed to be there. And that, I mean,
and they didn't let him in.
Yeah. And that, I had this monkey on my back for 50 years where, I'm saying, these sons of guns. And in fact, I went to England and I didn't purposely go to the RAC courts because I said, these guys discriminate. And here I am now 50 years later saying, okay, it wasn't me, it was everybody. So.
But you didn't feel that way in America.
I didn't feel that way in America. And so, I went to the finest homes there. People invited me out, lived in their home, was hosted in their homes, played squash, enjoyed with a lot of friends. And in the 50 or 60, 55 years, I still have friends that from 50 or 55 years ago. So I didn't, I really didn't. And maybe I was naive where I should have said, well, it's discrimination, but I decided the guy may have been in a bad mood, that he was just angry at me. It may not have been my color. So it didn't play an important part of my life. It just wasn't.
But you did witness the riots.
I witnessed the riots
after Martin Luther
Dudley,
King,
Roxbury.
But that didn't come into your adjustment of the country and how you fitted in.
No, it's really because, I was also careful, by the way. I didn't go to certain parts of the country. Now, I'm sure that if I went to the South somewhere at that time, that, it'd probably, make me very uncomfortable. But I just kept away. I mean, I just I'm not going to go to the Naxalite territory in India and hang out. So it was not, it was really not an important part of my life there.
But you had a little interlude with sort of a racial sort of fracas that occurred in the Team Olympics or the team World Team Sports.
Oh, the South African.
Yeah, with the South African.
This is a cool story. Actually.
Jeff, you know
so
about that.
So this is where my head is not discrimination, right? The South African team and the Indian team are sitting side to side having dinner in 1967 in Australia. The next day we're supposed to play the South African team. But there's all this buzz going on in India, and we're getting all these messages saying, well, you can't play South Africa. So, I said, this is like bunch of hooey. They've come all the way. They're sitting next to us. I said, let me see how they respond to me. So I go there and I introduce myself. This is the Indian team. We're playing you tomorrow. Can we have a beer together? We had a beer together. We have a two, and we got friendly with them. This was the first time we met anybody from South Africa, any white person or black person from South Africa. So we decided that this telegram was going to get delayed in its passing its message to us. So we delayed the telegram. So next day we played, and I played this guy, and I think Denny might know it, a fellow called Darby Boyter, big, strong Boer, and thank God I beat him. And the team won 2-1 at that stage. And
otherwise you might have gotten in trouble with the Indians.
So
Probably good you won, right, after being told not to play.
yeah,
And
we delayed the telegram, so we didn't know until we played that, it's like one of those Shakespearean effects that you have. So yeah, if we had lost, it would have become a big issue there because it's in Delhi. Because they'd say, we told these guys not to play and they lost. And you know what? I don't know what the reparations would have been, but they might have been something.
But did it motivate the team somewhat, or you at least? You would know if it motivated you for a sweet win.
Oh yeah. Oh certainly. Oh yeah. It was like there was a little bit of, I don't know it's apt here called Schadenfreude again. I told you so. I'm telling you that we're good. So,
but speaking of a sweet win, I know we're kind of getting tight on time. Maybe we should show the next video. It's actually some film footage from a 1970s match, the 1970s U.S. Nationals match, and Anil can describe what was happening there.
Now this is in slow motion. Sam Howe and I are playing here. The finals, I'm down 2-love. My coach says you've got to hit the ball hard and keep him out of his comfort level. And so here we are, and this is like why squash is so amazingly emblematic of the way we should be. And we're giving each other a lot of time. We're giving each other respect. We can certainly, each one can, hit us with a racket or ball at any time. But look at it, and it's like it's untrained choreography. And it's the tense battle. You're going to see in half a minute or so how tense it gets. And we're playing our heart out here. Now the guy, since this cameraman unwittingly has meshed the colors.
They both look like they're the same color.
The guy, Sam is with the wristband, and I'm without the wristband. And so he's the one hitting the ball now. Beautiful style, what an amazing stroke player. And I'm just hitting the ball hard and back and deep, getting him out of his comfort level. And it's 2-all, and somewhere around 10-all, Sam loses his contact lens. And Sam loses his contact lens, he puts his contact lens on, and here it's fast pace now. And I think it kind of disturbed him a little bit.
That's where he lost his lens.
That's where he put it back on.
Oh, okay.
And so he put it back on, and this is like normal speed. He put it back on, and it kind of disturbed him. I think it distracted him. But I did win this game.
So
and this is my macho. Soon it's going to be where I'm going to ruffle my hand and clench my fist to myself. And that was a macho reaction you get at that time.
Yeah.
Or less.
No primal screams.
No primal screams. That's
he
my
just
head.
messed up his hair. He was very civilized.
And to your point, Aroon, this is another part of being lucky. I tried hard, but I had to try hard to actually win. And maybe the contact lens that dropped off at 10-hole, at 12-hole, would have distracted him, and I got the next 3 points. But maybe I could have still have won, or maybe he would have won. But there was an element of luck here. So this is
You're not giving yourself enough credit for how good you are. You constantly put it down to luck, but it's not only luck.
Mixture.
Off the court, more so.
Yeah. So this is good. So this is a good reel.
Yeah, there he is with that trophy that's on the cover that you have, Jeff.
Yeah,
that
that's
you
one of the
shared.
trophies.
That's one of those
That's
trophies.
one.
So we're
Yeah.
going on now. Yeah.
That one, I think. Yeah.
So you described the fair play. I mean, for those of us who know squash, one of the nice things of watching that clip is no one's running over anybody. There's not 5 lets. There's just some, you know, it is a dance between 2 people playing fairly. Part of the game is getting out of your opponent's way. And you both did that. And I think golf has a player who is an amateur that you could be seen like in the squash world, and that's Bobby Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just about his expertise on the course. He set the way for sportsmanship at a much higher level. He set this bar. And I think you've done that, and it shows in that clip, certainly. And I think there's a match that's described beautifully in the book by Jean that you played against Spencer Burke. That's nice. If you could talk about that match to everybody, it would be great.
Okay. That's another reason I was so lucky. You know, I had played Spencer. This is the final of the National Intercollegiates at Yale. And I played Spencer Burke, I think, a month before, and it had been a somewhat easy win. And so I was a little more relaxed, a little less focused. And before I knew it, you know, Spencer Burke was up 2-love, and again, you know, I'd go back and kind of climb back into the match and get, you know, beat 2-all. And now it's match point for Spencer in the 5th game, and he hits a shot in the front wall, left front wall. Nobody sees it, but everybody thought it's great. It's up. And the referees already said, okay, you know, given match to Spencer, and I'm going to shake his hand, and Spencer looks back.
Even you thought the ball was up.
I said it seemed up. I mean, but I didn't see it properly. But Spencer was the only one who got the view. This is the finals, so not the final, semi-finals of the intercollegiates, but it's match point. And he looks back and he said, not so fast, not so fast. Just down.
It hit the tin.
So all the guys, all the pen guys on the gallery are, you know, I guess deflated to some extent. The Harvard guys are now saying, okay, maybe there's something we can do here. And a couple of rallies later, you know, Spencer, and it's 14-all, and Spencer, it's a deep ball on my forehead. I can remember this. And I barely get to it, and I said, oh my gosh, I said, you know, I don't know what I could do. I've got to just go for the 3-ball nick, and that's it. And chances are that I'm going to hit the tin, or it's going to go up, and he's going to drop the ball, and I'm in no position to get to the ball. Well, I hit the nick. I go for it. I pray to God, and then go for it. And the 3-ball nick, it hits a flat nick, just an absolute flat nick. And Spencer comes back, shakes my hand. I said, oh my gosh, I said, I won. I said, but Spencer, I said, you know, this match you're going to be remembered for this match because that kind of sportsmanship is unbeaten. It's, you know, it's not seen that often. And so there again, Aroon, to your answer to your question, right. There was a little bit of luck there. Spencer may not have been the same kind of guy that who would have called the ball down on himself. So there was a lot of luck there, by the grace of God and luck. So,
Fair play and good play.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, Lucky, you decided to return to India, to go back with your first wife, Linda, to India. Your parents had an arranged marriage, but all 4 of you siblings chose your own partners, and none of them were Indian, and there was some tension there. How did Linda adjust to life in India, and your parents with her, and, you know, the tensions at home? Can you talk about that?
well, you know, I think it took a while. It's like when you bring, I was naive, right? So I didn't quite know the complications of bringing home a woman from America. I kept thinking that how she has to change, how she has to compromise, how she has to adjust. It took me quite a bit of time, a year or 6 months, to figure out I have to adjust. Anyone's going to be who she is. They can only change them so much that I have to get the strength to adjust, which I did not for a long time. And there was a lot of tension, but the tensions, almost came more from me than from Linda. And I wasn't ready for this kind of complicated arrangement where the cultures made it so difficult to mesh together, especially the cultures at that time. So it was very difficult, and and I have to say that it was partially me that I didn't really just didn't have the strength. But I want to go to the point that about mixed marriage, and I'll leave it at that. My sister, I call my sister's marriage the great elopement. She eloped with a German, and
That's an interesting chapter in the book, actually.
yeah. So great elopement. She elopes. My father's angry. He's upset. He's grieving. He's isolated himself, and she really gets the brunt of his anger. And because he's lost his izzat in the Punjabi society, he's lost really, being the foreperson in Punjab because his daughter married a German. So it was a big problem. I think he got over it, and things he made up with them, and he told me many years later, he said that Ulrich was probably the best person that Asha could have married. So he agreed.
So things got smoothed out.
Yeah, things got smoothed out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think that you had a lot of good success in India, and you kind of hit your peak there, and won many other matches.
But your father and your paternal grandfather were zamindars and then successful businessmen. Your father, you said, was your best friend and your anchor. Your mother was a beautiful spiritual woman who actually her parents inspired you to give, and you said you were her favorite. You also got involved in the family business. So now, being involved in the family business and with a wife and 2 sons, you then decided to leave India and return to the US. Talk to us about that.
Well,
what were the circumstances?
I think that I was unhappy. I was more unhappy than Linda was, both from our relationship level and from the family level. My father was my anchor, and when he passed away, I kind of lost him. I missed him a lot. And I said, there's no reason for me to be here. I think that I'd better that Linda will be happier in the US. My kid will grow up in the US and get a US education. So that's what we did. It was a difficult time, but we moved, and I moved for the family. I moved for myself, actually.
Maybe this is actually a good time to play the last video, if we have time, to just kind of bring this to a quick close, because the last slideshow gives a sense of what happened after Anil returned to America. And even though he wasn't playing as much squash, he was still getting honored. And the squash courts at the CCI were named after him with some dignitaries. And he did win a few more masters. Anil and I, that's me in the middle.
That's in the school in Batala, where we gave, it was our home earlier on, my grandfather's.
Yeah,
and
he was given to a school.
And this is Khershala, the place that we go to in Chandigarh, and I'm on the advisory board there. But these kids are amazing.
And so Anil kind of reinvented himself by getting involved with helping younger players, not just college students who needed guidance from him to get
This is
into
my
college.
serve. You never knew I played tennis, right?
But yeah, he got involved with some of these NGOs, and just as he was very instrumental in kind of democratizing squash just from a diversity level by his mere presence in Harvard, he's now trying to continue to democratize it. There's the Hall of Fame induction in 2018. he's trying to reach into the other classes of people who wouldn't normally have access to this elite sport. And I think that's a way for him to continue to give back.
Ruslana, can you just mute your phone, please?
Ruslana?
Neil, it's pretty tough for the average player to age in the game of squash. It's just so hard on the body, but for the stronger player at your level, with all the training that you put yourself through, it's even more difficult. And we kind of talked about that a little bit. And I think with all the wins and all the accolades that you received over the years, as that started to come to, a halt to some degree, how did you handle that? Are you filling this void with some of these things that we just saw there? Or do you want to add to that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I stopped trying to play because my body hurts too much. I wish I could play, but I stopped trying. I hit the ball on myself and stuff like that. And that void, and it took quite some time. And when I met Jean, from her prodding and encouraging me to get involved in some other way, which is what I did. Which is what I did with Khel Shala, which is what I did with the Batala school in the northern township in Punjab. And it's been quite fulfilling. You go there and you take the trips and you see these kids and that whole myth of if you're poor, you feel hopeless, and so you have no energy and you have no ambition. That is a totally debunked myth from what I saw firsthand. These guys like sponges, girls and boys, they pick up and they want to learn from you. So it's a beautiful experience, and so it has taken away some of that void, taken the place of some of that void.
Jean, you have been to India a gazillion times. Your first time you went to India, give us your impression of that. You must have had some preconceived notions about India. Were they confirmed or debunked? Or also, did you ever during your marriage think of living in India, and could you have lived in India?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that. I think I mentioned early in this program that my father had been stationed in India during World War II and took that photograph of Anil's home. Unbeknownst to any of us, we weren't even born, but he came back with a lot of mementos and photos, and so I always had a fascination for India.
So you were lucky too.
Yeah, I was lucky too. We're both lucky. And so after I met Anil, I said, oh, here's my chance. I can actually go accompany with a real Indian. And so I was very excited to see it. And yes, I think it met all of my expectations and then some. We went to the Rajasthan area the first time I visited India, which of course is just an extraordinary place to visit. There are people wearing a million different kinds of turbans and beautiful colors and beautiful palaces. And of course the Taj Mahal and the Lake Palace Hotel, which is just absolutely magical. But I think India is a place of extremes, as anybody who's been there or lives there knows. And I don't think I was quite prepared for the breadth of the extremes. I think that I was a little overwhelmed by the sheer volume of poor people. And it was very touching and broke my heart quite a bit. But it was an extraordinary experience. And I think it's, a place that everybody in the whole world should visit. So we had a great time. And I guess another thing that I noticed about India, and which I expected, was this palpable sense of spirituality. I mean, I think it's just out there in the streets and in the air, and there are little temples and people, with prayer beads, and it's everywhere. And I feel that beautiful quality. It's kind of, you kind of hide your spirituality or your religion, and you go into a church and or a temple or a mosque, and it's all hidden away in America. But it's out there and it's expressed, and I enjoyed that. And I think Anil's mom is a spiritual person, and so I think we were able to connect on that level. And she's also a very good cook, so she taught me to cook, and I still have a notebook with her recipes in it, which I refer to this day. And so we actually were planning to move to India right before she died, and we had prepared Anil's flat to make the move. But unfortunately, she passed away just before we were ready to go. And it sort of put a halt to our, sort of impetus to go there. And so I never did move there, but I would. I think I would have trouble getting used to managing household help, which, in America, a lot of us just handle most of our housework and cooking and all of that ourselves. But other than that, the people are so hospitable in India, and there's just such a diversity of people and immense intellectual stimulation that it would be a very lovely place to go. I think we're sort of getting to the point where we're needing to wind down here.
So before we do that, I want to quickly read. We spoke about Spencer Burke and what a fair player he was.
Yeah.
So your game with him, he really thought wonderfully of you. He said, Anil was so agile, so fleet of foot. He was like the Fred Astaire of the squash court. No one could move like him, said Burke. He was unbelievably elegant, precise, and executed his shots with flair. And then he goes on about your game with him. At the time, Anil was the greatest player in the country, perhaps in the world. And it was one of those peak moments of my life to be playing with such a great champion. And the Harvard Crimson calls you the best individual performer in any sport Harvard has ever had. So there you go, Lucky.
So,
that's from Spencer to you. And
thank you, but he gave me very too much of an accolade here. But thank you. And
you know, Lucky, I love you for being so modest, but don't be putting it all down to being lucky. You are lucky, that's your name, but it was, your mom who gave you the name, and you never gave us that bit. All you said was you were lucky because you got this and that and the other. You work for things, and you worked for it.
We worked.
But I think we should start answering a few questions because we do have them.
Well, you have one right up front, don't you? I mean, when somebody
yes, we do. And I just wanted to read it because we got a couple of questions from Porter Wheeler, who was Anil's professor at Harvard. And he read the book and he sent us a couple of questions. One of them is, can you talk a bit more about what it was like to arrive at Harvard without anyone having any knowledge of your amazing squash talent? Some didn't even know squash was played in India. Was it confusing, discouraging, challenging, or what?
What a great question. It made me think a little bit. So when I got to Harvard, I didn't expect that, people would know me, recognize me, oh yeah, you won the Drysdale Cup a year ago. But I did expect that the coach Jack Barnaby would at least, give me the same amount of time that he I think I remembered him giving the ace tennis player behind me, John Levin, at Mem Hall, where we went there to introduce ourselves. And so when he kind of, kind of quickly dismissed me, I said, well, have I come to the wrong place? I thought they had a great program, but we're not connecting. But it made me slightly uncomfortable for a day or two. But I said, I'm still a good player, and I'm sure that I'm as good as these guys. So it's just that I have to give Jack time to recognize me. and so I just was patient, and then
Didn't take too long.
it took a few days, but it took through a couple of kind of like people who got involved, like Denny Adams, the captain of the squash team, then got involved, and he saw me play.
He told Jack,
Jack,
I think you better take a look at this guy.
Yeah.
And so Jenny said when Jack came to watch Anil play, his eyes kind of got big, and he realized that he really did have a
So
gem.
there was I mean, I didn't want a red carpet, but I did need some recognition.
But he said next
Yeah,
time he'd roll out the
Next time he wrote. So yeah. So,
He didn't know.
so
It was a
yeah,
joke,
yeah.
actually, that the admissions guy played on him. But here, I'll read speaking of your coach, I'll read the next question from Porter. He said, you give much credit to your coaching. What aspects of your game did your coaches most enhance? Conditioning, tactics, strokes?
So conditioning and strokes, I learned earlier on, and then in Bombay with Yusuf. We had to get conditioned to go play the Drysdale Cup. We had to get fit, we had to get strong. The traditional way of fitness, we were running a lot and playing a lot. There was no nutritional aspect to it. There was no strengthening weight aspect to this. It was just conventional, traditional running and playing. But we got fit there. And that fitness helped me through quite a bit, 4 or 5 years at Harvard, at Harvard or in Cambridge or Boston. And then again, the stroke play, the classic play of drop shots, volleys, lobs, etc. All of that I learned from Yusuf, and they were very useful. What I did learn from Jack more than anything else was Jack Barnaby, the coach at Harvard, was tactics, and like appropriate stroke play, effective stroke play, and more than anything else. And he would talk about simple things like, when I played Sam Hound, that clip you saw, hit the ball hard. This guy's, you have to disassemble, you have to get him off his comfort level. With little things that Jack used to bring to it within a tournament, help you win. So Jack really helped you win matches here. And simple things, not complicated. So both had their place. And I think just make one more point about coaches is that after I left Harvard, I missed a coach. And I realized this later on, 50 or 40 years later, that I always needed a coach to motivate me to change. I get sloppy sometimes, to kind of point out the sloppiness, to make it, to address the ball in a different way because I'm getting older and slower. I should have had a coach, and I think I've enjoyed these last few years a lot more.
Actually, I'm looking at some of the questions on the side, and there are other, sort of comments or questions, including a lot of more praise for you, Anil, from lots of different.
You had that question a minute ago.
Sorry, what's that?
Mike was Mike Way who had that question.
Mike Way.
Mike
so
Way.
where's my
Okay.
so let's see that.
Mike Way, yeah.
So Mike, and so I have to give him a little. So if I now know it's Mike Way, the coach at Harvard, I have to spend a minute more.
Yes, go for it.
Mike, I think that he, as I said earlier, he taught me simple things. He used to extract, if I'm losing or winning, he'd come out for a break and he just talked to me about like one thing to do. He wouldn't confuse my mind that I have to, drop the shot from here or, go there or whatever. And usually they were very keen observations and things that simple points that I could follow. So he was brilliant in that way. And
You said he tailored his advice for every player and what they could do and what their strengths and what their weaknesses were. And so he wanted you to hit the ball hard and do your feathery drop shot.
Right, hit the ball hard and hit the feathery drop. That's Mike. That's what he talks about as the Hashim Khan's drop shot.
But it's really nice to see all these comments from everybody on the side. And I'm not seeing any more questions, just a lot of thanks and nice words. So I think it's a good time for us.
There's one question. That's a good question, actually. It's from Steve Berliner.
Okay.
Assuming
You never played hardball prior to Harvard. Did you enjoy it as much as softball?
Yeah, I enjoyed both. Actually, I got to enjoy both. I think that they all have their own characteristics and merits. But no, I think it was great.
Your son is asking you, what was your hardest match ever?
Oh my gosh. Can I tell him?
He's hoping it was one with him later.
No. So I'll tell you where I got most humiliated, okay? Just so then we can, yeah, there's one that says,
Can't finish on that.
Huh? Oh, we won't
Can't finish on where you were most humiliated.
You can't finish on that.
Was it satisfying to play in an age group tournament, your later life, given what you had accomplished? In hindsight, would you have played more or less? And B, what's the most memorable squash-related experience?
So those are two easy ones that we can go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most,
I think
okay, in the age group, I would have played a lot more. I got injured. I didn't change my way of playing. And so I didn't appropriately adjust my game to my age. And if I hadn't gotten that injured, and if I had a coach, I would have played a lot. I'd be playing now, I think. But the answer to your next question, what's the most memorable squash-related experience? I would say that the most memorable experience has been, being awarded the U.S. Squash Hall of Fame plaque. I think that it was just such a, just like such a, highlight of my career, to end my career with the U.S. Squash Hall of Fame. I didn't expect it, and when I got it, I was thrilled.
I wasn't expecting it either, and I was just on the verge of finishing my book, and it gave me a perfect ending. So another stroke of luck for both of us.
So this luck is pervasive all through the book.
And I see Millie trying to get on. So.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay.
Before you thank everyone.
Yes, we do. We must thank
everyone. See this book?
Yeah.
And you can see all the things I've done there because I enjoyed so many different parts of it. You must all buy the book if you haven't, because what we've done here is given you a little bit of different parts, but there's a lot of wonderful stuff in the book about Lucky, about Jean, about their families, about the country, about all sorts of different things. So do buy the book. And at the bottom of that invitation is Nilly, is that right? It's at the bottom of the invitation, how they buy the book?
Yes, there's an Amazon link. You could just go to Amazon. It's Lucky, the Anil Nayar story by Jean Nayar. You can pick it up on Amazon. This is the best way we can support
authors.
This beautiful story.
Thank you.
And just in case, I just want to take this opportunity. This has been an incredible event. We maxed out on the number of participants. People were joining in from Facebook Live through our Indo-American Arts Council webpage. There are people from Dusseldorf, there are people from India, people are chiming in to see this story and to hear about this story from all over the world. I want to thank the participants. I want to thank the audience. Aroon, Geoff, and a special thank you to, of course, Jean and Anil Nayar.
Thank you.
If anybody's looking to contact Jean, Anil, needs more information on the books, I encourage you to reach out to their publisher at info@fiveriverspress.net. Another way you could show your support is by talking about the book on social media. Take a picture of the book, share the story on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and if you tag the Indo-American Arts Council, we will be sure to retag and circulate your posts. And Aroon, any other parting words, Geoff?
A lot of people have asked if they missed it because of the different timings all over the world. If you have a recording that you could put out, somewhere on your website or something that we can forward to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this can be caught right now on Facebook Live at the Indo-American Arts Council. If anybody has missed it, we will also get a recording of this on YouTube, and it will be posted on our webpage. So It is at IAAC.us. And if there are any other questions, Jean and Anil are willing to, if there are questions that we haven't answered, please feel free to post them, and they will get back to you. We're gonna give them an opportunity to connect with all of you. So
I really would thank you, Nidhi and Rakesh and IAAC, and really heartiest thanks to Geoff and Aroon, my buds from way back. And thank you for all those who, for participants in this fun Zoom event that you had.
Yeah, we're really grateful.
Very grateful to everybody concerned.
I think the squash world is grateful for you recording the history.
Geoff, you're great. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So thank you all very much. Thank you.
You guys are all great. Thanks so much, guys. Neely,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Are we out?
Do we leave?